Imagine walking through a supermarket and picking up an ordinary apple. Smooth skin, familiar shape, a fruit so common that most people barely give it a second glance. Yet hidden beneath that thin layer of skin is a story stretching back millions of years, one involving lost civilizations, forgotten forests, ancient trade routes, scientific breakthroughs, and one of history's greatest cases of mistaken identity. Few foods have influenced human culture the way apples have. They appear in legends, paintings, religious stories, scientific discoveries, and even the logos of some of the world's most recognizable companies. They symbolize knowledge, temptation, health, youth, and prosperity. Somehow, one simple fruit came to represent almost everything. But what if many of those stories aren't actually true? What if the famous fruit in the Garden of Eden was never identified as an apple? What if America's most legendary apple grower wasn't interested in feeding people at all? And what if the crisp apple sitting in your kitchen has already spent nearly a year inside a warehouse before reaching your hands? The deeper historians and scientists investigate the apple, the stranger its story becomes. Unlike wheat or rice, apples were never fully domesticated in one moment by one civilization. Their journey was shaped by wild animals, mountain forests, wandering merchants, ambitious emperors, religious movements, and modern corporations. Every generation transformed the fruit to match its own needs, often rewriting its identity in the process. Today, billions of apples are harvested every year, making them one of the world's most valuable fruit crops. Yet behind this enormous global industry lies a surprising truth. The apple we know today is only a tiny fragment of what once existed. To understand how one fruit conquered the world, we must travel far beyond orchards and grocery stores, to a forgotten wilderness where the story of every modern apple first began. Long before farmers planted neat rows of apple trees, nature had already created something far more extraordinary. High in the rugged mountains of Central Asia, where snow-fed rivers cut through deep valleys and dense forests blanket the hillsides, wild apple trees have been thriving for millions of years. Unlike the carefully managed orchards we know today, these forests grew entirely on their own, producing an astonishing variety of fruit. Some apples were tiny and intensely sour. Others were surprisingly large, sweet, and fragrant. No two trees were exactly alike. Scientists now recognize this region, centered around present-day Kazakhstan, as the birthplace of the modern apple. Genetic research has revealed that nearly every cultivated apple grown today shares ancient ancestry with these wild mountain forests. In many ways, they are living museums, preserving genetic traits that have survived countless ice ages, climate shifts, and natural disasters. But evolution alone did not shape the apple. The forest had unexpected partners. Bears wandered through the valleys feeding on ripe fruit before carrying seeds for miles inside their digestive systems. Birds scattered seeds across mountain slopes, while wild horses unknowingly expanded apple populations as they traveled between grazing grounds. Without planting a single tree, animals became the apple's first gardeners. This natural partnership produced incredible diversity. Every seed carried a unique genetic combination, allowing the forests to constantly experiment with new flavors, colors, textures, and levels of disease resistance. It was evolution operating on an enormous scale. For thousands of years, these forests remained isolated from the wider world. Then humans arrived. At first, they simply gathered fallen fruit during seasonal migrations. Eventually, they began selecting the sweetest apples to carry back to their villages. Without realizing it, those early travelers had started one of humanity's oldest plant breeding experiments, one that would eventually transform a wild mountain fruit into a global icon found on nearly every continent. By the time the first farming communities appeared across Central Asia, apples had already mastered one important skill: survival. What they had not mastered was long-distance travel. That changed with one of history's greatest transportation networks, the Silk Road. Stretching thousands of miles between East Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, the Silk Road was far more than a trade route for silk and spices. It was a living corridor where ideas, technologies, languages, diseases, animals, and plants constantly crossed paths. Among those travelers was an unlikely passenger, the apple. Merchants rarely set out intending to spread fruit trees. Instead, apples traveled by accident. Horses, camels, and donkeys ate fruit during rest stops, carrying seeds across deserts, grasslands, and mountain passes before depositing them hundreds of miles away. Traders also carried fresh apples as food, discarding seeds wherever they camped. Over centuries, wild populations from different regions began meeting for the first time, naturally cross-pollinating and creating entirely new combinations. This process transformed the apple into one of the most genetically diverse fruit species on Earth. Unlike peaches or cherries, planting the seed from a delicious apple almost never produces the same fruit. Every seed contains a unique genetic blueprint, combining traits from two different parent trees. One seed might grow into a tree bearing sweet, juicy apples. The next could produce fruit that is small, bitter, or nearly inedible. For early farmers, this was both exciting and frustrating. Every new tree was a surprise. Some discoveries were extraordinary enough to keep, most were not. Generations of growers gradually realized that waiting years for an unpredictable seedling was far too risky if they wanted consistent harvests. They needed a way to preserve exceptional trees exactly as they were. That search would lead to one of the most important agricultural breakthroughs in history. A technique so effective that nearly every premium apple sold around the world today still depends on it. Incredibly, the secret is not hidden inside the seed at all. It lies within the branch. For thousands of years, growing apples was an exercise in patience and luck. A farmer could spend nearly a decade raising a tree from seed, only to discover that its fruit was disappointing. Some apples were dry and flavorless. Others were painfully sour or too soft to store. Finding an exceptional tree was incredibly rare, and once it died, its unique qualities usually disappeared forever. Ancient growers refused to accept that uncertainty. Somewhere in the ancient Mediterranean, farmers noticed something remarkable. When a healthy branch from one apple tree was carefully attached to the roots of another, the branch continued growing as if nothing had happened. Even more surprising, it produced exactly the same fruit as the original tree. This simple observation became one of agriculture's greatest innovations: grafting. Unlike planting seeds, grafting does not create a new tree genetically. It preserves an existing one. Every famous apple variety you've ever heard of, whether Gala, Fuji, Honeycrisp, or Granny Smith, is not really a family of similar trees. They are, genetically speaking, the same tree repeated thousands or even millions of times through carefully made grafts. In a sense, every orchard is a forest of clones. That realization changes the way we think about apples. The Granny Smith you buy today shares the same genetic identity as the original chance seedling discovered in Australia more than a century ago. Every successful graft simply extends the life of that original tree into another generation. The Romans recognized the enormous value of this technique and helped spread it across Europe as their empire expanded. Orchards became more predictable, harvests more reliable, and growers could finally reproduce exceptional fruit with confidence. But grafting solved only one problem. As apples became more consistent, demand exploded. Villages grew into cities, trade expanded across continents, and apples slowly transformed from a seasonal forest fruit into an agricultural commodity. Few people realized that this success would eventually reshape economies, influence settlement across North America, and create one of the most misunderstood legends in American history: The man at the center of that legend wasn't planting apples for people to eat. He was planting them for something else entirely. Few historical figures have been transformed into folklore as completely as John Chapman. To generations of Americans, he is remembered simply as Johnny Appleseed, the barefoot wanderer carrying a sack of apple seeds, spreading delicious fruit across the frontier as an act of kindness. Children's books turned him into a cheerful folk hero, while paintings often showed birds perched on his shoulders and grateful settlers welcoming his arrival. The real man was both more fascinating and far more practical. Born in Massachusetts during the final years of the American Revolution, Chapman spent much of his adult life traveling west as new settlements pushed into Ohio, Indiana, and Pennsylvania. But he wasn't randomly scattering seeds wherever he walked. He carefully established nurseries near developing communities, often years before large numbers of settlers arrived. It was an unusually clever business strategy. Landowners moving west needed orchards to secure property claims and provide future income. Chapman supplied young apple trees, sold them at the perfect moment, and built a surprisingly successful business while living an extraordinarily simple life. By most accounts, he avoided violence, respected wildlife, and maintained friendly relationships with both settlers and Native American communities. Yet one enormous misunderstanding has survived for nearly 2 centuries. The apples grown from Chapman's seeds were almost never intended for eating. Because every apple seed produces a genetically unique tree, most of his orchards yielded fruit that was small, highly acidic, and unpleasant to eat fresh. To modern tastes, many would have seemed nearly inedible, but they were perfect for fermentation. Across the American frontier, clean drinking water was often unreliable. Wells became contaminated, rivers carried disease, and safe beverages were difficult to find. Fermented cider offered a dependable alternative that could be stored for months without spoiling. In many frontier communities, apples were valued less as food than as the foundation of an everyday drink. Johnny Appleseed wasn't building America's lunchboxes. He was helping build one of the country's earliest agricultural industries, without ever realizing that another movement would soon change the fate of every apple orchard in America forever. By the middle of the 19th century, apples had become deeply woven into American life, but not for the reason most people would expect. Across farms, villages, and growing towns, countless orchards existed primarily to produce cider. Fresh apples were certainly eaten when available, but for many families, their greatest value came after fermentation. Cider was easier to store than fresh fruit, safer than questionable water supplies, and often served at nearly every meal. Then public opinion began to shift. As cities expanded during the Industrial Revolution, concerns about excessive drinking grew louder. Religious leaders, physicians, and social reformers argued that widespread alcohol consumption contributed to poverty, violence, workplace accidents, and family instability. Their campaign became known as the Temperance Movement, and its influence spread rapidly across the United States. Eventually, national prohibition arrived. Although the new laws focused on alcoholic beverages, the effects reached far beyond breweries and distilleries. Countless cider orchards suddenly lost their largest market. Trees that had supplied communities for generations were abandoned, replaced, or simply cut down because they no longer produced profitable crops. The apple industry faced an unexpected crisis. If Americans were no longer buying apples to make cider, growers needed an entirely new reason for people to purchase them. The solution wasn't another variety. It was a new identity. Growers, educators, advertisers, and public health advocates gradually promoted apples as symbols of wholesome living. School children carried them in lunch pails. Teachers received them as tokens of appreciation. Nutrition campaigns praised their fiber and vitamins. Over time, a familiar saying spread across English-speaking countries: "An apple a day keeps the doctor away." Whether or not people believed the proverb literally hardly mattered. Its message was simple, memorable, and incredibly effective. Within a single generation, the public image of apples had been transformed. A fruit once associated with barrels, cider presses, and fermentation became a symbol of health, freshness, and family life. But just as growers celebrated this remarkable reinvention, another problem quietly emerged. In their effort to sell more apples, they began selecting one characteristic above all others: not flavor, appearance. As the 20th century began, apple growers faced a new kind of competition. Railroads connected distant farms to rapidly expanding cities. Grocery stores wanted fruit that could survive weeks of transportation without bruising. Consumers often made buying decisions in seconds, choosing apples that looked the brightest, the smoothest, and the most colorful. Appearance had become a powerful marketing tool. Among the many varieties available at the time, one apple quickly captured public attention. It offered an attractive shape, rich red coloring, and a name that promised exceptional flavor: Red Delicious. When the variety was first introduced, that promise was genuine. Early Red Delicious apples were known for their balanced sweetness, crisp texture, and distinctive aroma. They quickly became a favorite among growers and consumers alike. Demand increased year after year, encouraging orchards across the country to plant more trees. But success created an unexpected problem. Retailers wanted apples that looked even redder. Packers preferred thicker skins that resisted bruising during long shipments. Supermarkets valued fruit that could remain attractive after weeks in storage. So breeders began selecting trees based on appearance rather than eating quality. Generation after generation, growers favored apples with deeper color, tougher skin, and a more uniform shape. Each small decision seemed harmless on its own, yet over decades, those choices slowly changed the fruit itself. The result was disappointing. Many Red Delicious apples became dry, grainy, and lacking the vibrant flavor that had originally made the variety famous. Their beautiful appearance remained, but the eating experience steadily declined. Consumers eventually noticed. Millions of people who believed they simply disliked apples had, in reality, experienced only one increasingly disappointing variety. As new cultivars entered the market with better flavor and texture, Red Delicious gradually lost the dominance it had enjoyed for decades. The lesson reached far beyond orchards. Optimizing a product for appearance alone can quietly undermine the very qualities that made it valuable in the first place. Fortunately, a very different apple was already growing, one that would remind the world what a truly exceptional apple could taste like. By the late 20th century, many growers realized that consumers were no longer impressed by appearance alone. They wanted apples that tasted fresh, stayed crisp, and delivered the satisfying crunch people remembered from childhood. The industry needed a breakthrough. It arrived from an unexpected place. In the cold climate of Minnesota, researchers had spent decades breeding apples capable of surviving harsh winters. Their goal was practical, rather than revolutionary: create trees that could withstand freezing temperatures while still producing reliable harvests. Among thousands of experimental seedlings, one young tree appeared almost ordinary. For years, it attracted little attention. It grew quietly alongside hundreds of other candidates, many of which were eventually removed because they failed to meet expectations. By all appearances, this tree seemed destined for the same fate. Then came harvest season. When researchers finally tasted its fruit, they noticed something extraordinary. Instead of breaking down softly when bitten, the flesh fractured cleanly, releasing an explosion of juice with every bite. The texture felt completely different from anything consumers had experienced before. That apple would eventually become known as Honeycrisp. Its success surprised almost everyone. Customers willingly paid significantly higher prices because the eating experience justified the cost. Grocery stores quickly expanded shelf space, growers rushed to plant new orchards, and Honeycrisp became one of the most profitable apple varieties ever introduced. More importantly, it changed the industry's priorities. For decades, breeding programs had focused heavily on appearance, shipping durability, and storage life. Honeycrisp proved that consumers were willing to reward exceptional flavor and texture, even if production costs were higher. That lesson reshaped modern apple breeding. Today, many of the world's newest premium varieties are developed not only for disease resistance and appearance, but also for sweetness, crispness, aroma, and overall eating quality. Yet even as apples became better than ever, another transformation was quietly taking place behind supermarket doors. The freshest-looking apple on display might not be nearly as fresh as it appears. Walk into almost any grocery store, and you'll find apples arranged in perfect rows, bright, polished, and seemingly fresh from the orchard. Their smooth skins and crisp appearance suggest they were picked only days ago. In reality, many have been on a much longer journey. Apple harvests happen during a relatively short season, yet consumers expect fresh apples every month of the year. To meet that demand, growers rely on one of the most sophisticated food preservation systems ever developed. Shortly after harvest, millions of apples are placed inside enormous refrigerated storage facilities, known as controlled atmosphere rooms. Temperature is kept just above freezing, while oxygen levels are reduced dramatically and carbon dioxide is carefully regulated. The goal is surprisingly simple: slow the apple's metabolism without freezing it. Although apples appear motionless after they're picked, they remain living organisms. They continue to breathe, consume oxygen, and slowly convert stored sugars as they age. By carefully adjusting the surrounding atmosphere, scientists can delay this natural aging process for many months. This technology has revolutionized global fruit distribution. An apple harvested in early autumn may not reach a consumer until the following spring, or even later, while still maintaining much of its original texture. To further reduce moisture loss, many apples also receive an ultra-thin food-grade wax coating. The wax replaces the fruit's natural protective layer, which is partially removed during commercial washing. It helps prevent dehydration and gives apples the glossy finish shoppers have come to expect. Despite these advances, time still leaves its mark. As months pass, tiny structural changes occur inside the fruit. Cell walls gradually weaken, moisture shifts between tissues, and aromatic compounds slowly decline. An apple may still look beautiful from the outside, while delivering a noticeably less vibrant eating experience. Yet the greatest challenge facing apples today isn't storage. It's something far more difficult to preserve. Their astonishing genetic diversity, and the wild forests where that diversity first evolved, is quietly disappearing before our eyes. At first glance, modern apple farming appears to be a remarkable success. More than 80 million metric tons of apples are harvested around the world every year. Orchards stretch across North America, Europe, Asia, South America, Australia, and New Zealand. Hundreds of millions of people enjoy apples every single day, making them one of humanity's most successful cultivated fruits. But beneath that success lies a growing vulnerability. Walk through a commercial orchard, and you'll notice something unusual. Every tree stands at nearly the same height. The fruit ripens at almost exactly the same time. Each apple looks nearly identical to the next. That uniformity is efficient. It is also risky. Because most commercial varieties are propagated through grafting, entire orchards are often made up of genetically identical trees. If a new disease, fungus, or insect evolves that can overcome one variety's natural defenses, thousands or even millions of trees may share the exact same weakness. History has shown what can happen when agriculture depends too heavily on genetic uniformity. This is why scientists continue returning to the forests where the apple's story first began. The wild apple populations of Central Asia still contain an extraordinary collection of genetic traits: natural resistance to pests, tolerance to extreme temperatures, and flavors unlike anything found in commercial orchards. These ancient forests represent a living library that breeders may depend on as climates change and new plant diseases emerge. Protecting them is no longer simply about preserving nature. It is about protecting the future of one of the world's most important food crops. Perhaps that is the greatest irony in the apple's remarkable journey. For thousands of years, humanity has reshaped this fruit to suit changing civilizations, economies, and tastes. We transformed a wild mountain tree into a global agricultural icon. We selected its sweetness, changed its appearance, carried it across continents, and built entire industries around it. Yet despite all of our technology, the future of the apple may still depend on the same untamed forests where its story began millions of years ago. The next time you hold an apple, remember that you are not simply holding a piece of fruit. You are holding millions of years of evolution, thousands of years of human ingenuity, and a living reminder that some of history's greatest treasures are the ones we almost take for granted.